Trying to be doing that bullshit. On some good news.
All right, welcome back to BS with Brian Simpson. I'm here with my guest, Dame Grant.
Yes.
Let's hop right into it. Dame, I met you in Wisconsin, my little Wisconsin run. Out there in what, Appleton?
Appleton, Wisconsin, yeah.
Yeah, it's a town.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. College town.
College town, yeah. Good beer. Best beer I've had with the spotted, what's it,
Spotted Cow.
Yeah, Spotted Cow is the best beer I've had. I love it. They don't sell it outside of Wisconsin because they're fucking evil. And I want to get right into it, actually, because so recently this week there was a mass shooter that drove to a grocery store in the black part of Buffalo and killed, I think, 12 people. Injured many more. And he was ultimately surrendered to the police. And less than a week before that, a police showed up. And I don't know what town this was in. I should have looked it up, but I'm horrible at research. But an old lady was having like a psychotic episode, and the cops showed up. She was holding a knife. Her family called 911, but the cops got there before the paramedics, and they ended up shooting this lady, the 75-year-old lady. And I made an Instagram video, which I didn't think was very controversial, but
I saw the comments on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well. The thing is, certain comments are expected because there's a very specific kind of white dude that doesn't like my comedy or commentary. It's like the type of dudes that, like, if you bring up anything racial, they can't handle it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Then they come and go. Whatever. I don't give a fuck about them. But it's like, but it is interesting to me because my ultimate point that I was making is. And the video wasn't even very racial at all, but it was like the ultimate point I was making is not that cops never shoot white people. That's a ridiculous notion, but they never shoot white supremacists. That's my point. They never shoot these mass shooter white supremacists. It's like, and my theory is they don't see them as the enemy. They don't see them the way, it's like. This because this guy still had his gun. In fact he had it pointed at his own, like he was going to kill himself, and they talked him out of killing himself and surrendering. Yeah, and now one theory that I did get was, because what I said was the only thing that makes sense to me is either you racist or like you don't see them as a threat to you. Because you relate to their ideology. Like there are enough of these people in law enforcement where it's like when they come up on one of these white supremacist shooters, they don't see them as a threat because they know he ain't there for them. You know what I mean? They literally see this guy armed. They know he just used his weapon, but they still feel safe enough to like now. A friend of mine did offer an argument, not anybody in the comments, that perhaps it has more to do with the fact that when there's a mass shooter, they send in a specialized team. They send in the SWAT or whatever they call it in your area. And those officers are better trained and more professional. Which, if that's the case, then that reinforces the argument that there should be specialists for more things. There should be a special a beat cop should not be responding to a mental health emergency.
Absolutely.
Because to me, it makes no sense that that if anybody else gets there before the police, any other emergency services get there before the police, they are not armed, and they are able to defuse the situation.
A paramedic,
a firefighter, a social worker, nurses in hospitals, dealing with people, even when they have weaponry, the orderlies, they get it together. because they don't have the option to shoot them. So it's not even like, I'm not saying like if nurses were strapped they wouldn't shoot them, but that's not even on the table. So they have other problem solving skills.
Yeah,
and it's like, but to me, it's something wrong with the training. If you're saying this cop because right away, and this is not unexpected, that cop, superiors was like he followed his training. Which tells me there's something wrong with the training. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
How do you, in what scenario do you need to shoot a 70-something-year-old person?
And this person had a knife, right? I didn't do the research.
This person did have a knife, for sure. And she was about, I'm going to guesstimate, about 10 feet from him. 10 feet in front of him. And he had his gun on her and was like, hey, drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the fucking knife, drop the fucking knife. And she didn't. And eventually, here's the thing. She didn't speak English either.
Okay.
So here's the other side. All of the tension being pumped into the situation was coming from him.
Yeah, high elevated voice.
She didn't make no moves. It was like he started out like drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife. It was like he was getting more and more and more and more tense.
Yeah.
But it was only because he was adding tension. You know what I mean? It's like she didn't like dive at him or nothing like that. At least not that I saw. And so to me it's like, if you can watch that video and be cool with that, because this is what bothers me the most. It's like the violence or unfairness or whatever that minorities experience at the hands of the police. It's so what's the word I'm looking for? Ubiquitous? What that mean?
Ubiquitous means like common.
Right. Okay. It's so ubiquitous that because I can't tell you how many times I've been in a situation, like I told you, when I was in the military, I was the only black person for a long time. I was always in situations where I was the only black person. Right. Same thing in comedy too. I'm always in a lot of situations where I'm the only black person, but I can't tell you how many times something happened where it was definitely racism and my white friends were all confused. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why they only fucking with you? Like, why they fucking,
right.
Like they couldn't wrap their, and you know what? And I never said it's racism. I will just let you sit with it. I'll be like, what do you think? What do you think? It is.
Let's hammer it out.
Yeah, well, it's that. It's like it's this, because it's one of those things where you don't have to be aware of it unless you choose to be. You know what I mean? It's almost like being a billionaire, and thinking there's not a problem with poverty because you don't see it when you look out your window. It's like, if you want to know what's really going on, you got to go to the poor neighborhood to look at it. But it's not outside your window. You don't have to.
Yeah.
It is. So it's the same thing. It's like, if you want to believe that there's no racial bias or racism, you can. If you're white, you can believe that, because you only have to deal with it if you go do it. Like, you have to actively go.
You have to bring it to you.
Right. And
it's like that strategy the media use of, that mix of the Vietnam War and civil rights. Once it was televised, with people being hosed and trampled on Edmund Pettus Bridge, or once we saw bodies,
right.
American soldiers being slain. That's when it became realistic and started to hit home. Like, we gotta end this war. We gotta stop treating blacks in XYZ way.
I wonder what that's about, though. I wonder why do you think it is that people?
Well, it's undeniable.
Well, yeah, because it's the visual.
Yeah,
it's the reason why we don't have a lot of video. It's almost like, remember the Ray Rice incident?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When
you mean Tamir Rice?
No, not Tamir Rice.
Football player Ray Rice.
Oh, Ray Rice.
Ray Rice. Yeah, Ray Rice, football player. He punched the shit out of his wife in the elevator.
Shellacked her, yeah.
Knocked her
right.
clean the fuck out.
Yep.
And and it got reported, and the NFL suspended him for 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
And then TMZ got a hold of the video and made it public, and then they banned him for basically the rest of his life from the NFL. And the fucked up thing about that is the NFL saw the video before they suspended him for the 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
So they already knew what it was, but when it went public is when they decided to just fuck his whole shit up. And I'm not defending nothing that he did. I'm just saying the NFL doesn't care about women. They just care about, like, they don't care. They only care about the NFL. They don't care about women or domestic violence or none of that other stuff. They'll make a commercial or whatever the fuck, but it's like, as long as it ain't enough proof to embarrass them, they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, public perception.
Yeah, and so it's that thing of like, it's no, because we're all very much aware that our phones are made by slaves, that our shoes are made by slaves, and by slaves I mean wage slaves. Some people are straight up slaves, like they're not getting paid nothing.
Yeah.
And then some people are wage slaves in the sense that they get paid so little that they can't even afford to quit the job. Like they can't leave.
And they have no other options.
Right, they don't have other right.
Yeah.
And so we're all very much aware of this. But we don't it's a different thing when you see it.
Right.
There's very few videos of people working in these factories like slaving away or jumping off the roof.
You hear about it.
You hear about it. You hear little things about it. Or, every now and then an American will get like a note in a toy box that says help or whatever.
I've never heard of that. Does that really happen?
Hell
Yeah, that has happened.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, and we
They found shit stitched into shoes and underwear and stuff like that.
Like somebody's like, yo, my name's Chung Lee, help. And motherfucker's like, well, how we know who wrote that or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's that. It's that thing where it's like, we don't have to. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess my point is like, if we got rid of all inequality in America, we would still have to contend with the fact that it's like basically we would still be the white people of the world. You understand what I'm saying?
Black folks?
No, Americans. Right, okay. Americans, because black folks are the niggas of America, but we ain't the niggas of the whole planet. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
right.
That's somewhere else. We have our own fight to fight here, but let's just say we won that fight.
Yeah,
let's just say every white person in America got better and acknowledged their cognitive bias, and we solved all of the problems that come from racial inequality and inequity and all of that. It's like, but we still have the guilt of being American on top of that. Where it's like, if we call it guilt at all, I mean, I don't even know if we ready for that.
No.
Be like, because we would have to give up our whole way of life.
Absolutely, and they would tear into capitalism, which would.
Yeah, we ain't even ready. We ain't even ready to have those conversations because are you? Because here's the other side of it. Are you willing to give up? I mean, I guess we're getting a little off subject, but to me, it's like, if you're not willing to give up your comforts, then it's just lip service.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's almost like the NFL, where it's like, yeah, you're willing to be outraged, you're willing to punish this guy, but you're also willing to let him play when you thought it benefited you more to let him play.
Yeah,
because he was a superstar. Everyone loved watching him. I mean, at that season, he was the man. You know what I mean? Or the season before this. So this was the beginning of one of the seasons. But it's like he was that one of those dudes that people tuned in to watch, and it's like they were like, well, we ain't gonna give that up. Oh, wait a minute. It's like as soon as they had to come face to face with that shit. Because there's still plenty of people that, Ben Roethlisberger never really paid a price. I think he had 3 rapes.
Yeah.
Right.
I think so.
None
allegedly.
of it was. But right, 3 alleged rapes, but none of it was on tape. All the.
I mean, it goes back to like the Rodney King beating, right? That shit was happening all the time. But the fact that was filmed and people saw it on the evening news, that turned it into a fucking powder keg, like that exploded people's ideas.
And speaking of which, boy, do I love this motherfucker, and I feel guilty because I can't remember his name. What's the name of the man that is leading the Amazon union?
Oh, it starts with a D.
Derek Smalls.
Derek Smalls.
There we go.
I fucking love me some Derek Smalls because
He talked down Lindsey Graham in front of
He talked down Lindsey Graham, but it ain't just that he talked down Lindsey Graham. It's that he did it as himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's a New York cat, and he ain't putting on a 3-piece suit.
Sorry, it's Christian Smalls.
Sorry, Christian Smalls.
Okay.
So he ain't putting on a 3-piece suit. He ain't taking off his bandana. He ain't covering his tattoos. He ain't getting a speech coach to stop talking black.
Yeah.
He just going, and because it disarms, because if usually when somebody that walk, talk, and look like him is the face of something, they try to dress themselves up, or they get some publicist that tells them, wear a suit, talk like this, take off the bandana, take off the wave cap, don't, and it gives the opposition ammo because they get to go, this person is really this thug or whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact that he coming out as himself already, they can't use who he really is against him because he's already being him. And I also love the fact that, like, when you talking to a Lindsey Graham, and again these rich old white dudes that don't never be around black people unless they have to,
mm-hmm.
They think when they hear his accent, they think they're smarter than him. They just assume they're more intelligent.
You heard about the leaked PR memo from Amazon, right?
No.
They tried to help elevate Christian Smalls because they thought that because he was more thuggish or whatever, like the term they used was not smart or articulate.
Mm-hmm.
In
a PR note.
Yeah.
We know what that means.
And so they were like, like, let that guy be the leader of it. That's going to be great. We can eat this guy for lunch. And then we see what fucking happened with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's eating their fucking lunch.
Yeah, they thought
because he is smarter than you. I mean, here's the thing: you don't have to be smart to be a senator. You know what I'm saying?
Not at all.
You don't have to be, anything. You don't have to be good. You don't have to be quick. You don't have to be witty.
Is the woman that you were talking about earlier? Is that Yan Lee? Is that who you're talking about? Yan Lee in San Diego?
The woman that
got shot by the cops with a knife when she had wielding a knife.
Yes, I don't know where it happened.
San Diego.
It was San Diego. Her name is Yan Lee.
Yan Lee. And here's this kind of goes back to what you were talking about at first, because the reason why the police were even there is they were serving her with an eviction notice. Which you don't need 6 fucking cops with guns and canine units to serve an eviction notice on somebody.
Just an elderly person.
An elderly Chinese lady, who barely speaks English.
See, I thought she spoke Spanish.
This might be a different person then. I mean, because I'm seeing a lot of articles here about women wielding knives and getting shot by the cops.
Recent too, yeah.
Yeah,
is this a recent article?
This was this year. It was in March, but
close enough.
No. The incident I'm talking about happened, like not even a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay, woman with woman with knife.
So I think this was in Ohio. I think this is the woman. This is the one. Yeah, because if you Google, I googled old woman shot by police and like 50 things came up.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to sift through them actually. But what's crazy is with the Yan Lee woman from March, she was yelling on the body. They released the body cam footage, and she has a knife, and she's yelling, fake police, call the police." She thought that the deputy serving the eviction notice was a fake police officer, which, if you think back to even Breonna Taylor, right? Wasn't she the one whose boyfriend shot at the cops when they came in because they just burst in? Right.
Okay, so
because they were at the wrong house.
They were at the wrong house, and he shot back.
Okay, no. So this was a 75-year-old woman in New Mexico. This is who I'm talking about. This happened recently, May 12th.
Yeah, when I Google woman shot by a cop with knife, everything from the San Diego one shows up from March, and then this thing in Baltimore.
Sam Brigman and Daniela, Daniela L.,
Las Cruces,
attorneys for the family of 75-year-old Amelia Baca, announced that they would demand that the Dona Ana County District Attorney criminally charge the as yet unnamed La Cruces Police Department officer with murder. Okay, so the incident took place on the evening of April 16th when Baca's daughter made a 911 call and told the LCPD dispatcher that her mother was suffering a mental health crisis and getting really aggressive. She advised the dispatcher that her mother had a knife and that she was suffering from dementia. LCDP officers were sent to the house. Why? Why are you sending officers?
Don't ever call the police.
Don't ever call the police. Or I don't know. Or can you specifically tell them that you don't want police, that you only want...
Well, there's like some cities have like different services, like a 311.
Yeah.
There's a 911. You know, it depends on what the situation is. For the mental, I mean, I don't know if there's like a mental health division in any city where you can call to say, hey.
And I know in LA you can call and you can request paramedics if somebody's having a mental health issue. Now the issue is like if somebody has a knife, then they're not going to send paramedics to handle someone with a knife. But it shouldn't be the same people who are serving an eviction notice or pulling you over on the side of the road,
I agree.
or taking down an active shooter, or talking down a grandma who has a knife.
I don't know shit about organizing a police force, but I don't see how difficult it would be to have a specialized mental health response unit.
Well,
for these specific things with social worker and a fucking and somebody that is trained to disarm people that don't have guns. You know what I mean? Or right. I don't know. Because again, like I said, if you can gently arrest a motherfucker that just killed 10 people that still got his rifle, but you can't. You can't. I mean, send a SWAT team in.
Why can you de-escalate that, but you can't de-escalate a 75-year-old woman with a kitchen knife?
To me, the answer is racism. It's inherent bias. Like I said, I think it's because you don't. It's a combination of. I think where I'm landing on it is I think it's a combination of the fact that you don't feel threatened, you don't feel as threatened by this guy, and or to put another way, you feel more threatened by the old lady, and the fact that they aren't sending specialized response units to people having mental health crises.
I do think it's a combination of those two, because if you look at something like Waco, where it was people who were explicitly anti-government, the government went in with guns and they burned those people alive. You know what I mean? They didn't give a fuck that they were white because they were anti-government. But the thing is, a lot of these white supremacist shooters, they're not anti-cop. They're anti-black people. They're anti-Asian people. They're
anti-Semites,
whatever. I mean, but they're not anti-cop.
The old school white supremacist was anti-cop. You know what I mean? The Waco type of motherfuckers was like, yo,
well, that's crazy.
The separatists.
Yeah, but these newfangled people, they want to be cops. They look up to cops. You know,
it's a way to get into the power structure.
Yeah, and the problem too is that
a lot of them are failed cops. A lot of them are people who tried to be cops but couldn't pass physical, couldn't pass psych eval, whatever it is. And it's also police departments all over the country have serious fucking issues with white supremacy within their own ranks.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look at and not just that, but like I said, they see them. Here's a perfect example with the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, right? Take all the shooting and stuff out of it. The police were treating him like an ally and not like somebody that was armed at a protest.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Like before all of the shit went down, he was walking around with the cops didn't see armed dudes that weren't cops at the protest as an issue. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so it's that, because they see them as like they're on our side, they support us. So them walking around with guns ain't a problem.
And he didn't have any fear of the cops. He was walking straight up to him with gun right here, and he's making hand signals and shit at him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like that's the problem. It's like a lot of cops don't see those dudes as like an issue. Even the fact that like, you don't need to fucking be here, you're making it worse. You know what I mean? None of that. And so to me, it's like that's part of the problem. Also, the part of the problem is these so-called good apples. Because I know I have friends that are cops. I know a good cop or two.
Two.
Right. But are you a good? No, I mean some of the people I serve with are now cops. You know what I mean? And they're lifelong friends of mine. But it's like, are you calling out the bullshit? Because there are some that will. They usually pay a price for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you got to be. I understand that you're in an organization that you can't just be Mr. Calling everybody out without it. One, maybe being in danger, or two, jeopardizing your career or whatever. Mm-hmm. But are you pulling people to the side in private? Are you doing things to change? Because there are. Like we talked about one last week with that one sheriff that was like, yo, these three motherfuckers stole $75 or whatever it was. It was something slight. It was like $300.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And I don't play that shit. And I'm exposing them. Like he had a sandwich board with all of their faces on it at the press conference.
This was like, the sheriff.
Yeah, this was a sheriff.
This is a sheriff.
And he was like, this is officer such and such, this is officer such and such, and this is officer such and such. And this is what he did, and he did, and he did. But again, I bet you it was a lot of cops that wasn't happy about that shit. Even though he was absolutely right. They stole money. They stole money from a suspect that they thought was gonna go to prison and it wouldn't matter. And then because of the way they fucked up the arrest, her charge got reduced, and then when she asked for her money back, they ain't have it.
Which they did.
Which no. I mean,
they pocketed it.
The evidence office didn't have her money because the officer stole it. So when she was like, "Where's my money?" and they were like, "What? There's nobody checked in no money."
Yeah, like and on the face they didn't have.
These fucking idiots when they filled out the initial arrest form, they put that they took money from her. Instead of and then decided to steal the money and didn't change the form. So then that was the evidence that got them caught up because there was no paperwork. And then one of the dumb motherfuckers, he like called the evidence lady and was like, he called her on the official line and asked about the evidence, and then called her on her real phone and was like, don't tell nobody that we talked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like that's already recorded.
Right. It's like, my point is they only got caught because they were dumb. They didn't get caught because...
But also, one thing I thought about after we talked about that was the fact that he felt confident enough to call her up on her private phone and say, hey, forget that conversation happened. That indicates that he's done that before.
Yeah, that's the inner workings.
He felt confident in the notion that if he says, hey, that conversation never happened, another person that works for the police department is going to go, yeah, it never happened. Don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What never happened?
Power play, yeah, it's a power play thing. Hey, I want to go back to we were talking about with the tiers, with operating a police force or whatever, these like tiers of police, like who's responding to what situation. Why don't we have a unarmed response team, and then this next tier of armed officers and whatnot, and why that doesn't exist? Because to me, it's like it's budgetary as well, or it's
not really budgetary because
it's guys as budgetary or disguised as that.
I mean, if by budgetary you mean they don't have the money, that's not true.
Well, I don't think that's true. I mean, but like
least,
how they
at
have
least
to,
not in places like L.A.
Yeah, not Chicago either.
This is New Mexico.
It's budgetary in the sense that they spend millions and millions of dollars on things like warrior training, warrior mindset training, and shit like that, where they learn to be sheepdogs in a world of sheep and wolves and all that bullshit.
Because here's another problem that isn't talked about enough in regards to this, but the military, there was a program, and I think it might have been Obama that did it, or no, maybe it was Bush. But they started selling surplus military equipment to police forces.
Oh yeah,
and
I saw that on Vice on 60 Minutes.
So they basically like militarized the police force because no one's sitting around with all this military equipment. Well, now we have to train them how to use it. And I'm gonna tell you something.
It's the LESO.
What's that stand for?
Law Enforcement Support Office is a division of the DLA Disposition Services, a subordinate command of the Defense Logistics Agency.
When did it start?
1990.
So that's Clinton?
90?
No, it was
Bush 1.
It's Bush 1.
Okay, yeah. So, but they've all continued it. This is not it's not a partisan issue.
That's when the modern one started, and of course, it was initially instituted for drug enforcement, quote unquote.
Yeah. This is the war on drugs. And the thing is, I know this temptation. Now listen, I wasn't no frontline grunt or nothing like that. And not everybody has this feeling, but I'm gonna tell you, the temptation, like, if somebody hands you a powerful weapon, you want to shoot that motherfucker. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I ain't saying you want to shoot somebody, but I'm saying the urge to, like, when do I get to shoot this motherfucker? Like, that's real. No one's sitting around with a bunch of fucking M240s and, like, just like, well, we got those. You know, we'll want some for someday or whatever. No, they want, like, take me on the range. Let me open this motherfucker up. You know
Even if you give him one of the little battering rams and knock down a door, the first thing you're like, when are we going to get to use this fucking battering ram?
Or you give me a tank.
Oh yeah,
they have tanks.
Yeah,
I think the LAPD has 2 tanks.
When they started giving cops like Dodge Chargers and shit like that.
Yeah, so you know,
and it's like, why do you need a Dodge Charger as a as a cruiser? It doesn't make any sense.
Here's the wild shit too.
High-speed chases, baby.
And a lot of people assume that if you criticize law enforcement, that you're anti-law enforcement. Like I want all cops to die or something. That's not true.
Right.
Not at all.
I would just like to. All I want is to feel safe when I see a cop. That's all I want. Is to know, like, the chances of it being some bullshit are very, very low. You know, because the truth is, most of the cops that I've encountered as an adult were fine.
Yeah.
As a child, though, and a lot of this has to do, again, with the way way they see you when you live in certain neighborhoods. Like those same cops will see me where I live now and go, hey, how's it going? You know, and then the same cops will see me where I lived 5 years ago, and I'll be like, hey, how's it going, officer? And they'll be like, I'll be doing better if I could see your hands. You know what I mean? That happened to me, dude, in San Diego, in my own neighborhood. I was going on the 7-Eleven and seeing the cop. I was like, hey, how's it going this evening? And he was like, I'll be doing better if I can see your hands. Like,
is it a white cop or black cop?
It's a black cop.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like,
that's what people mean, though, that's part of what people mean when they, all cops are bastards or 1312 or whatever, is like, it changes you when you enter the police force and there is a culture to it.
But for me, how productive is all cops are bastards? That's just inflammatory. It's like, I mean, look, it's regardless of how you feel about it, it's like, what are you gaining from saying it to somebody? Because if you say it to somebody that agrees with you, then you're gaining nothing, right? If you say it to somebody that disagrees with it, you're just, like, I don't see how that helps the situation.
This kind of goes back to one thing we were talking about before about, whether when you're saying something inflammatory like that, are you trying to activate people who already agree with you but maybe haven't been activated yet, or are you trying to convince somebody? I think that one possibility for why you might say something inflammatory like that is, number one, first off, if it's true, then you can defend it on just the sense that it's true, but also, if you get a reaction from somebody out of it, then that offers an opportunity to, well, let me explain what I mean when I say all cops are bastards. Yeah.
It's like a chance for discourse.
It's a chance for discourse. Now, maybe in reality, it's not a chance for discourse, and maybe that means that it's bad tactics or bad optics or something like that. I think that's a reasonable perspective. Yeah,
because the inflammatory thing, is like across the board saying something inflammatory. Who knows? All cops are bastards. Not productive, like you were saying. All lives matter. Also inflammatory, not productive.
That's not true. You think all lives matter is inflammatory? Well, okay, maybe I'm biased because I believe that's true. I
believe it's true, but I mean, I think it was something created as to counter the phrase "Black Lives Matter." I don't think it existed.
Oh, right. No, okay, no. I had a brain fart.
Okay, yeah. No,
I thought you was saying Black Lives Matter is inflammatory.
Oh,
the thing is, though, even Black Lives Matter in a real sense it's not intended to be inflammatory, but it is inflammatory because it does inflame people who take it personally.
Well, they
shouldn't take it personally.
It's become that, but it was never intended as that.
Never intended.
All cops are bastards. It was always intended to be like, It's basically fuck you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so, but at the same time, I think part of the purpose of All Cops Are Bastards that's a rallying cry for people who are on that side, but maybe who are anarchists or who are anti-cop, who have not, or anti-government, who have not thought through the actual
because how can you be so sure that you want anarchy when you've never lived in that situation? It's like, motherfucker, you get tired of Burning Man after 2 weeks. You think you want anarchy all the time? That sounds crazy to me.
Very crazy. Let me ask the third phrase, inflammatory. Defund the police.
I think abolish the police is more inflammatory than defund
abolish the police is more inflammatory.
Yeah, it's more inflammatory.
Defund the police. Well, the thing is,
let's talk about
so we got to get more specific here when we say inflammatory because any everything nowadays becomes politicized. So if you make a phrase that supports a reasonable and logical political stance, it's going to get turned into something by the other side,
right?
That inflames them. You know what I mean? Like universal health care, or it's like anything will get turned into something that's divisive.
Mm-hmm.
So
Black Lives Matter and kneeling during which was specifically chosen to be a respectful thing.
So something being divisive, I think we're conflating divisive and inflammatory, because when I say inflammatory, I'm talking about something that's intended to
piss people off.
It's a conversation stopper, right? It's like I'm pissing people off because my goal is to irritate the enemy. My goal is to
I think that's a valid distinction.
Right. It's like, let's go Brandon. You know what I mean?
It's
when I hear people say that, it's like I don't think it has the effect that they intend, but that's what they intended, right? Yeah. So we got to make that distinction, right? So now back to your question about
defund versus abolish.
Yeah, defund versus abolish. But it's like I think defund the police can turn into a discussion with someone that's willing to discuss. Abolish the police, that also seems the thing is it's not realistic. So it's like your only goal can be to inflame by you saying get rid of cops completely. Well, how is that going to happen?
Well, I agree.
It's like you're saying murder all billionaires.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm
down with that too.
Well,
down with that too.
Well, I mean, wouldn't that be something? Just a movie where there's a serial killer that only kills billionaires.
A reverse purge.
Like if you go over 999 million, they coming for your ass.
That's kind of what
like Dexter for billionaires.
You have Elon Musk just selling off stock.
Some Death Note shit, where it's just as soon as somebody ticks up over that Forbes 100, they just put their name in the book.
There you go. Here we come.
Yeah. So but I do agree with defunding the police, but again, I think it could be more conversation inducing with a better slogan.
I've heard that, but what is the better phrase for that?
I talked about this for a little bit, and something that I don't want to forget before we hop onto this is the abolitionist movement. I don't know if you have heard about this. I watched Professor Mark Lamont Hill on the Breakfast Club talk about this.
Yep.
Well, we can come back to it, but I think the phrasing of it, is, I don't know if that was intended to be controversial or not, or divisive or not.
Defund the police?
Yeah, I'm not sure, because I think the reality of it is reallocate funding for the police.
Right.
Well, it's also abolish the police is not necessarily abolish police lowercase p, get rid of all police. It's abolish police capital P.
Policing?
as in the contemporary and in some ways a historical concept of what the police are for.
Yeah, but I just mean it leans into the fact that like the left is very bad at messaging.
That's true.
And it's like the right that's anti-abortion. They went, oh, we're pro-life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, like if you let the same people that came up with abolish the police come up with our side of the abortion debate, they'd be like, murder them fucking babies or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
kill them all. And it's like to them, it's got more rhetorical flourish, but it's you know, there's too much ambiguity in the slogan that leaves it open to interpretation.
But here's the response to that, though, is that pro-choice was sort of trying to cut the baby in half type thing, you know, kind of meet them in the middle. And a lot of people believe that was a terrible tactical choice, because what the fuck does pro-choice, what the fuck does that even mean? And over time, the pro-choice side lost that argument. All of the come into the middle stuff and everything, and rare, safe, and legal, and everything, all that like meeting in the middle centrist stuff didn't protect choice. So,
okay, but I'm not talking about meeting in the middle. I'm just talking about being clear. Pro-choice is clear, and just because we lost doesn't mean that that's the reason that we named it. That's wrong, true, right? So, you know. But we are bad at, the left is bad at naming things. You know, they name everything wrong, or they name it stuff like that where it's like, because to me, the right and the left both depend on the stupid people on their side. The less educated people on your side, those are the people that get taken advantage of, get taken for credit. And when you name something that the other side can easily take and confuse the people on their side, that's where you fuck up to me.
But I feel like I think Black Lives Matter is a good fucking name for that movement.
Black Lives Matter is a great name.
I think it's a great name, but that didn't prevent the right from taking that and twisting that into meaning somehow that like Black Lives Matter more than other lives. But they'll warp anything.
That's it being turned political.
Sure.
Right. But all I'm saying is, like, if you want to be clear about what you mean, you know, that abolish the police isn't clear. You know, because the fact that you even have to explain it afterwards. It's like, well, what we really mean by abolish the police is, well, then why you ain't say what you really meant?
Well, like you can say that about Black Lives Matter too, though. Like, I mean, I've seen people have to explain it. Now, were they explaining it to somebody who was playing dumb, or were they explaining it to somebody who?
Well, that's the universal question, because listen, my whole life, I retired from explaining race to white people about 5 years ago, and I still find myself doing it. And it's exhausting, because I never know the answer to that question. I never know, am I talking to somebody that really wants to learn, or am I talking to somebody that just wants validation?
Yeah.
You know, or they just want a black guy to agree with their mildly racist stance on something.
Right.
It's exhausting. And the thing is, 99% of the time, I guess this is reinforcing your point. 99% of the time, it doesn't work. I can count on one hand the amount of times I've changed someone's mind or made somebody go, oh, you know what? Or even times I've made somebody go, okay, yeah, I kind of see what you're saying. And then they're back. Like, what was that football movie where Denzel Washington was the coach? Remember the Titans?
Remember the Titans.
Was that the one? And remember they were in that racist town, and they all went off to the camp, and they bonded and became a team and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then the day they got back, it was right back to the racist shit. It's like, that's what it is most of the time. It's like, you don't have enough. Because to me, somebody has to love you to listen. That's true. That's really what it is. Somebody got to really love you. Like the fact that all of this, the fact that like there's way more acceptance for LGBTQ shit now has way more to do with the fact that so many people have come out of the closet in the last decade or two, and so many of the people that were like bigots by default realize they're like, oh, my auntie's gay, my cousin's gay, my son's gay, and then they listen, right? Because as soon as it has something to do with them, it's almost like, you ever see somebody out there being a champion for a disease that they don't have, or that somebody close to them don't have? No, nobody. I don't know anybody that's out there like, we all need to be more aware of breast cancer, and they don't have it, or their mama don't have it, or somebody close to them. That's when you give a fuck. It's when it's close. So I I don't know what the question is. I think, and this is a cliche thing that's been beat to death. I think the answer is fucking. I think the more we fuck and mix, the more it becomes harder and harder to deny. You know, like once you love somebody, you can't turn that off.
Right.
So you got to justify it somehow. You know, and that's what makes people open their minds up. That's the only thing that works.
The point about people coming out of the closet, I think, is a really good one, because I think that the best way to foster some sort of understanding or empathy between people is they have to interact with one another as human beings, right?
Yeah.
It can't just be like a beer summit at the fucking White House or something like that. They have to work and play, and their kids have to play together and that kind of stuff. But
so we all gotta go fuck a cop.
I guess so, man. Well, no, I would love it. I would love it if cops actually
fucked.
Cops fucked. Number one.
Lot,
yeah, I bet they do. Yeah,
they do. They fuck people that they arrest a lot too.
Well, fuck over versus fuck.
That's rape. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, if cops. If you didn't have to assume that the cop was about to fucking ruin your day every time you saw him on your block, then that would go a long way to creating stronger relationships between cops and the communities that they police.
There was a brilliant comedian that had a joke about that, about if cops gave out prizes or something like that.
Oh yeah, somebody does that.
It's me. That's me.
I wonder who that was.
Yeah, check me out on season 3 of the stand-ups on Netflix.
Let's check this out.
Promo, baby. But no, that's absolutely true. I don't honestly, man. Because you know what it is? The last shooting, what it really is that I remember one of the comments, the first person to comment was an angry white guy. And one of the comments was, he was like, "You're just another angry black. You're not even funny. You're just another angry black." And I think that's...
He didn't even say black guy, just
black. Angry black.
Ooh, just another angry crayon.
Because again, he's trying to get a rise on me, but it's like, bro, I've had better people say worse shit to me. Like you not listen. If that's all, listen. Here's the thing: the people that, because it's always the same insults from the same sort of person, and just know, man, like you're not intelligent. Like you don't have the vocabulary to get under my skin. You know, it's like if all you got is nigga and angry black and like all the little default insults that like y'all got a little supremacist glossary y'all all pull from. It's like that's not gonna get a rise in me at all. It's funny to me. It's actually kind of sad. How
are you weeding through real comments and bots though?
I don't. My policy is if I see it and you know, I don't read all the comments, but if I see it, I see it. You know, and if it's something like that, I just pin it to the top. And
it's good discourse though.
Well, yeah. Well, I'll let everybody else argue, but I'm not like. But after 24 hours, I turn off the notifications for the post. Like I don't have time to be arguing in the comment section of my. Fuck all that. Yeah. But I'll give you a little bit. But I also don't. I will not respond to anybody who has a private account.
Oh yeah.
If I can't see your pictures and I can't follow you without permission, then I ain't even. You don't even exist.
That's how I feel about strippers and IG models. I hate following private accounts.
Nah, I'm not following a private. I mean, I'll follow a private account if you're somebody I know, but I'm not going to respond to you because you're trying to interact with me from behind a curtain or something. You know what I mean? It's like if you want to say something to me publicly, then be open about who you are and where you. You know what I mean? If you're not, then I'm not gonna interact. I break that rule. Sometimes I respond before I check, and it's like whatever. Well, we in this, but you're not getting more than a couple of back and forth. Because there's probably a lot of people on the internet that think like they won an argument with me or I gave up or something. But it's like no, I have a rule. I'm not gonna be all day 2, 3, 4 days because I used to do that, especially Facebook. Ooh, remember early the Wild Wild West Facebook before they had emotes on comments. It's like
and dislike and
bro, I've spent days.
I used to write dissertations in those comments because there was there's no character limit on those.
No, and I realized like I spent 3 or 4 days going back and forth. I remember this is when I started doing this. There's a Facebook group. This is when I used to live in Franklin Village. There's a Franklin Village Facebook group, and I'll never forget like cause some people talk about homeless people like they're not people, right?
Right.
And and I would notice that like whenever in this group somebody would be complaining about homeless people, it would be a bunch of people like, yeah, fuck them. I wish they would, wipe them out, or just something crazy, right? Mm-hmm. But then whenever people would talk, because that Franklin Avenue is right there by the canyon, so like the coyotes come down sometimes, right? And like when they're hungry, when they ain't a lot of food or whatever, they'll come to the neighborhood and like try to kill a cat or something. And whenever somebody would talk about how like a coyote tried to attack their dog or whatever, or they say like I want to hunt this motherfucker down or something like that,
you're just trying to survive.
Like people in the group would be like, no, like this is a precious animal, like don't you dare. Like they cared more about the coyotes
than the homeless people,
than the people, right? And so I made that comment one time. I forget exactly how I worded it, but it just turned into this fucking 3 or 4 day back and forth, and all this other shit. And I was like. And I didn't change anybody's mind. I just wasted my fucking time. I woke up frustrated and went right into it and did it all day, and then went to bed frustrated and woke back up frustrated and did it all day. And I was like, I don't have time for this.
God.
Yeah. You go to them 1,000. Now I'll read them. I'll read a little. If I see a little 400 comment thread, I'm in there. I'll spend 2 hours going through every piece of juicy.
Brian likes the mess.
Man,
he likes that mess.
I like a mess that ain't on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I like to watch a spill. I don't want to be in it. I don't want to.
You have to watch two people wrestle in the mud, but you're not going to get dirty yourself.
Yeah, especially if they both deserve it. Like, you do deserve each other. That's really what it is on me. It's like if I think one of you is a piece of shit and I get to see you get dunked on, I like to see.
Those are the best. Like on Reddit, am I the asshole? The best am I the assholes are you're both assholes. Those are always the best ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I remember I just saw a lady. Well, it wasn't am I an asshole, but it was like a lady had it's so funny. This lady on TikTok, she was complaining because her husband and his father were building a house for them. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure they were already living in the house, so they built part of the house, but they were like building out the rest of the house. And the father-in-law texted her to like, hey, could you sweep up these shavings and hang up these tools for us, and that would really help us out for tomorrow or whatever. And then she went on TikTok and complained about it, like, who the fuck is my father-in-law to ask me to do this and this and that, blah blah blah.
Build your house, bitch.
Yeah, because that's the problem with social media is you can go get validation for the shittiest of opinions, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then she came home, so she did not clean up anything. And then the next day, she came home and it was all clean. Like all the stuff they asked her to do, they did it. And then she made another TikTok going, like basically gloating about how like she got her way. And then
I will burn that house to the fucking ground.
Oh yeah. And then a few months
I'd finish building it.
Yeah.
And then I burned the whole fucking thing down.
No, he divorced her.
Wow.
Her next TikTok was like they breaking up. You know what I mean?
Damn.
Oh, he dodged a fucking bullet then.
Yeah, no bullshit.
If you go on TikTok,
can you imagine? And keep in mind, like this dad and son, they're built. They don't have contractors or nothing. They were both just them two building this house.
She let a good one get away then.
Yeah,
of course.
This motherfucker's a carpenter.
I don't get it. But I love that shit. I love a little comeuppance, dog. Somebody texted me the other day. They said, Brian, I watched a bunch of your podcasts, and you really, did you know that you talk about revenge a lot?
Oh yeah.
And I was like, it's kind of my thing. And they like, and they pointed out something. They're like, yeah, but if something happened to somebody, and you were even remotely attached to them, people would think it was you.
You could be the first suspect.
Yeah, but the thing is, I wouldn't be sloppy with my revenge.
Okay.
Nobody would think it was me.
Right.
No. Because the thing is, I study revenge. I don't have anybody that's that much. Because you know what I'm realizing now? Is people say success is the best revenge, but it really isn't. Revenge is the best revenge. But what success does do is it makes your lust for revenge less so, because I think as you get more successful and you feel more safe and you feel more happy, it's like what you have is not worth risking for the person that's like 10 fucking stories behind you. You know, so it's like, but there's probably only one person still alive on Earth that I would get revenge on if I had the resources.
And you got probably public perception too when you are thinking about revenge. You know, like it's gonna look shitty on you if you like XYZ successful. You're like, he's still fucking taking it out on.
But see, I think a lot of people when I say revenge, they misunderstand. Like, I don't mean an emotional response. I'm talking about a well orchestrated, like Count of Monte Cristo level. You know what I mean?
That's
Lucky number 11 type shit where nobody ain't even gonna think they like by the time the shit happened to you, nobody's even gonna remember what happened between us. They just be like, what the fuck happened to this motherfucker? You know what I'm saying? That's what I want. I would not get revenge on somebody unless I thought I would get away with it smooth. Yeah. Unless I knew for sure that it was like be executed well. And the thing is, who's worth that effort? Because it's tremendous nowadays. I mean, for you to really honestly get away with some shit nowadays, it takes a tremendous amount of effort. You need at least 2 hackers, $1 million, a new face. You know, like you gotta have your shit down pat because, you know, they can trace your cell phone and trace your location and make you log into a false cell phone tower and go through all your texts and your Google searches.
Oh, yeah.
And all of that. So you got to really be on top of your P's and Q's to really get away with something if they want to catch you. You know what I'm saying? That's why all these serial killers, they always murder hookers because they know, you know, they're not going to put a lot of resources into finding out who killed the hooker. Right. But the truth of the matter is, if law enforcement really want you, they coming for your ass. Like a lot of murders go unsolved, but that's just because they're not willing to allocate the resources to solve it. But like that's why, like if you shoot a cop, they shutting the whole fucking city down until they find you. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like remember when Dorner?
If you kidnap a cute little white girl, they'll shut everything down for that.
But even her, it's like unless she a cop's daughter or something, like,
like rich person's daughter.
They gonna put more into a cute white girl, but they ain't gonna break the bank. You know what I mean? It depends on who that white girl is.
Hey, let's go back to the if y'all don't mind. The cop thing with the you mentioned something about feeling safe. I want to like elaborate more on that because when is the right? Because we talked about not calling the police for the mental. When have you found yourself in a situation where you've called the police or?
Man, I don't even remember the last time. Actually, no, I do. I do remember the last time I called the police. And you know what's so funny? It wasn't even an emergency. Okay. I was. When I first moved to where I live now, we used to go. We used to walk. Me and my roommate used to walk after dinner, like walk a mile or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And
gotta get those steps in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 10,000.
That's back when I cared, and and I used to. We walked down. We were high, but I filmed it, so I know it wasn't just me being high. Mm-hmm. We walked past this one house, and the light was flickering in such a way that it didn't look electric. Like it didn't look like a flickering light. It looked like Morse code. It was flickering so precise.
Oh shit!
And steady that it looked like someone was doing it on purpose. Like it didn't look like there was like
wasn't short.
No, right. So. And when we first walked by, I was like,
that Marine Corps training started bubbling up in his brain.
So I filmed it. And I was like, maybe I'm tripping. So I posted it on Instagram. I was like, am I tripping or does this look like somebody sending a signal? And everybody was like, oh nah, man, like you should call the cops. And it was like, and part of me was like, you should not call the cops. You should not call the fucking cops. But after a while, it was like probably like 10, 15 people called me and was like, did you call the police? Did you check up on them? Like, what is it? There could be somebody trying to get help in there. You know, it was that kind of shit. So I called the so it took me a while.
People think they're in a movie.
Yeah, it took me a while to find the non-emergency number because I'm definitely not calling 911. Uh-huh. It took me a while to find a non-emergency number, and I was like, look, I know this sounds crazy. Now keep in mind, this was right after the riots. You know, this was like right after the protests here. So, or like right in the midst of all that. So I think the cops, it was hard to convince them that I wasn't just fucking with them. Okay. You know, so I was like, I know this sounds crazy, but I just walked past this house.
Wait, when was this? What year was this?
This was...
Had to be 2020, right?
2020, yeah.
2020, okay.
Yeah, and And so the lady was like, okay, yeah, okay, we okay, what up? Okay, yeah. So then I called back the next day to follow up. Be like, yo, so did anybody? And they were like, we don't know what you're talking about. There's no record of you calling last night. Whoa. So the lady was just like, fuck you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But they sent somebody over that day. And they were like, as far as we can tell, nobody lives there. There's nobody in there. I'm like,
oh, shit.
I'm like, all right.
It's a ghost. Shit. Yeah.
Or there's like a slave thing in the basement, or you know, who knows?
Yeah. And the cops went up and knocked twice, and then all right.
Yeah, and I had just seen Parasite. You know what I mean? It was like maybe somebody in the basement flicking a switch. I don't know.
Well, have you ever called the cops?
Yeah, let's say confession time. I just called the police like last week when I was in Chicago. You know, and I want to.
Where?
Right in my neighborhood.
Unburden your soul.
Yeah, I need to. It's that time. It was a black couple that I called the police on. It was a black dude, actually, who was screaming at his girl as he was trying to get her to get back in the car. You know what I mean? So she's out the car.
We've all been there. No.
Walking away, he's screaming, chasing around the car. You know, part of that thing is for me to intervene. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if this is really my job.
It's not.
It's not. And that was part of that whole abolitionist movement, how we got to police our own communities and neighborhoods, break up teenagers. Like, most teenagers are bigger than me, so I can't intervene on that. I'm not intervening on a lot of, disputes. I called 311 first, just to be like, hey, maybe it's a non-emergency, or maybe I just felt good about that. It was like, this number's no longer being serviced. Like,
well, let me ask you something. What made you feel like the situation was escalated to the point where you needed the cops? Was there violence?
It wasn't violence, but we were in a public neighborhood across from this school district. There's children. There's houses everywhere. This woman is actively being, not running, chasing, but she's walking away. They're walking in circles around the car. So part of it's like, eventually maybe she wants to get back in the car. She didn't walk away down the sidewalk. She's about being pursued that way. But also there was a part of it to say, this can't be the first time this woman's felt threatened in my head. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
But
by him specifically, or you mean in general?
Is what made you think she was, like, what made you go, this is not just a couple fighting. This woman is in danger.
Because they were both out the car and he's screaming, get back in the fucking car, bitch. I mean, there was language that I overheard.
Is this at the level where you would call 911?
Oh man, my rule for it is, so the only times I've called 911 was one time in Halloween. I was on Sunset and I saw this woman come out of Saddle Ranch. I was walking down the street with some friends, and this woman came out of Saddle Ranch and she was wasted, and she slipped and she hit her head on the sidewalk, and I was like, okay, well, I got to call about that because
that's none of your business. You're supposed to keep playing.
No, yeah.
Somebody's gonna die. No, but
that's somebody's injured. So for instance, if this guy had swung at this woman, physically attacked her or something like that, definitely, I think that's because you have to think about it like the cops, when they show up, you have to assume that they are going to escalate the tension of the situation. So it has to be a last resort where it's like, well, I have to take that risk. If it's just people having an argument, I don't think I would call the cops. But it's high. That's a borderline situation because it depends on how close I thought that was to actual violence.
I would have to hear the bitch. Get back in the car, bitch, because the way the bitch come out, that tell you
how serious it is.
Because to me, just the story as you've told it, I would not have called the cops. But I do know that, they say, 90% of communication, whatever the percent of communication is, nonverbal. It's
sure.
70%. But it's so it's like I wasn't there to hear the tone and see the body language. So I'm giving you some gray area there. So like I would have to hear the bitch. I would have to see the face. If there's terror in the face, to maybe co-sign this one, but. The visual for me is woman's actively distancing herself from this person who's yelling, get back in the car. But she's not saying someone call the police.
Not saying that. No, did not say that.
What about that? If you hear someone call the police.
Oh.
Again though, because you know, is it a white woman yelling somebody call the police because there's a black guy walking on her sidewalk? Like that's that's a tricky situation. It's always going to be context dependent about whether you want to call the police. But I think that the bar for me is when you call the police, you're introducing violence into this situation.
Right.
So you need to go, is it worth introducing the potential that some roided up cop is going to show up and shoot half the people here?
I mean, but I've also had, like we were saying, interactions with cops that, you know, that's the risk. That's the risk.
So what happened with these cops when they showed up?
Oh, I wouldn't.
Because Chicago PD, especially, they may be the most corrupt police force in the nation.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They're ranking up.
NOPD.
What is it?
In New Orleans Police Department.
New Orleans?
They are corrupt as shit.
But more than Chicago.
I don't know. I never lived in Chicago. I
mean, I know it's like the stats change every year, but I'm just talking about in their history.
Well, Chicago police get publicized a lot, I think, especially now with the mayor and everything. They have these public spats, and then obviously the corruption, the history of Chicago police corruption.
Even before, I ain't even talking about modern. I'm just talking about like in their whole history, like more than New York, more than LA.
Oh, historically,
Chicago
New
PD,
Orleans police literally come out of slave patrols.
Okay,
I can see that.
Like literally, the NOPD started like developed out of white terrorist organizations that were chasing slaves.
Yeah.
So but Chicago, like that's because that's another thing too. Is like, where am I? Because if I'm one of them towns where, you know, everybody knows the cops. Because see, that's a whole different kind of policing. It's like the cops that live in their town, that grew up with the people in the town, that know everybody in the town. They handle situations completely differently because they're invested. They don't see it us versus them. They see it as like, this is my community that I'm keeping in order. You know, so they'll be like, oh, Chuck, get up and go home, and, you know, stay in the house. You know, but it's different when you got like these huge, like almost corporate type police forces that are policing people that they don't have any connection to. They don't live there. They don't.
Right.
They're not invested in the community in any way. That's a whole different thing. So like if I'm one of them small towns, I might call the police for some minor shit just because I don't want to deal with it, and I know the cop ain't gonna show up and fucking kill nobody.
Well, and also you probably went to high school with their fucking brother or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it's a sheriff's department that's elected as opposed to municipal police department where the chief of police is appointed by the mayor. You know what I mean? Like those are two very, very different systems between.
What we really need is a mechanism to get rid of shitty cops. And the police unions are so powerful, man. It's undoable.
That's what All Cops Are Bastards is about, though. That's what it's trying to highlight. It's trying to highlight that it's back to there is a blue wall of silence, right? They protect one another.
Yeah.
You have to figure out, and that's also what comes when we're talking about like defund the police. Part of that is, you know, one of the best. I'm sure like somebody's gonna comment with all the reasons why this is a dumb fucking idea or whatever, but I'm gonna put it out there anyway because I read it somewhere. Of when a cop gets sued for infringing on somebody's rights and the person gets cash,
settlement of some sort.
Gets a settlement of some sort. That comes out of just like the city fund.
Yeah,
like the taxpayers pay for that.
Not out of the union's pension,
as opposed to the union's pension, where if it was coming out of the union's pension, then cops would have an incentive to police one another. So when somebody starts getting out of pocket, they're like, "My man, you gotta calm down." And because if you put a bullet in this person, then you're taking money away from all of us.
So let me ask you this: speaking of comments, you had a comment.
Oh yes.
That you need to respond to from last week's episode. The
weird the connection between weird sex and colonialism.
Right. So let me say, wait a minute. Why didn't it change? Someone says, he just said, what does he mean by saying that they were talking about Rob. What does he mean by saying that any weird sex thing is colonialism? He said it so natural and chill. I am authentically confused. Now, I try to answer for you, but I would like you to address that.
Sure. So the context that we were talking about in there, we were talking about sex tourism, people going to Thailand or whatever and doing some freaky sex shit. And the reason why I said that's colonialism is because all that sex tourism shit, like if you look at the history of that stuff, that is, first of all, it's connected to like Orientalist thinking. So wealthy white people from Western Europe, especially Britain, traveling to colonial nations in like Southeast Asia or North Africa and basically fucking the people there. And the reason why that's like, first off, it's an exoticization of the people who live there, but also it's that you are allowed, even in polite society, to travel somewhere else and use and purchase the sexual capital that exists over there. And also the imbalance economically and power-wise between the colonizing force and the colonized civilization means that you incentivize people to move in from the rural areas, their communities, into the city, where the thing that they have that is valuable to the people coming there on vacation is basically sex.
Are you against this?
I mean, I don't like the power imbalance element of it. But against it in the sense of I'm supportive of sex workers themselves. You know, people doing what they got to do to survive. I'm fine with that.
I'm talking about their ability to do something strange for some change. Do you think that should be? Do you think it should exist, or only like well regulated, or just as it is now? Like, are you against the practice of people going from rich nations to underdeveloped nations to fuck people?
I think it's kind of fucked up. But that being said, you know, I would prefer if we weren't in the situation where that was the best way for somebody to make money. But considering that we're in that situation, I'm not going to judge somebody for, number one, being a sex worker, if that's the best, if they either want to do that or that's the only thing they can do to make money.
I want sex work to be so legal that you can get a fucking PhD in it. It's like that's an educated pussy you're getting. Like that didn't just like, you know what I'm talking about? Where like there's a way to be an expert at fucking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which I mean that kind of partially exists. Like, you know those old I think what they call them, geishas?
Yeah.
Where it's like all their training was about having good pussy.
Yeah.
The way they would walk, they would bind their feet so that they would develop stronger fucking pelvic floors and Kegels, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like that kind of shit. Where it's like there are like expert sex workers. There are Stephen Hawking level fuckers out there.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want people to be forced into that, obviously.
Right. So your problem is that some of those people don't have any other options.
Right.
So
and often, because we talked about this before with like the Parenti speech, right? About how there's no poor nations, there's poor people.
Right.
Right? And how the fact that there are places like Thailand that are known for sex tourism is a function of foreign powers invading Thailand and stealing the natural resources from the people who live there, so that the people who live there have no choice but to sell their labor at slave wages or to sell their bodies, right? So that's what I was talking about when I was talking about clones, because there's also I'll put a link in the show notes. Actually, there's an interesting article that I was reading about the history of this, because it goes all the way back to like the Grand Tour. You ever heard about the Grand Tour? People in Western Europe used to go to like the Mediterranean and Greece and southern Italy and everything, and that's like the OG sex tourism.
Really?
Because back then, I mean, we're talking like in the 1600s.
This like kind of like similar to Orient Express, is it?
No, because the Orient Express is a train,
right?
But like this even predates that.
Oh wow!
The Grand Tour would just be, you were supposed to. These people in Western Europe like looked at places like Italy or Greece as sort of the foundational geography of civilization, right?
Yeah.
So they thought of these places as being sort of great nations in decline.
Mm-hmm.
So you would go there and you'd go see all the beautiful things that the Greeks built in the past, or all the beautiful things that the Romans built in the past.
Yeah.
But you were looking down upon the people who live there now because they were sort of in these fallen civilizations. But you were British, right? Or you were French. So you're at the top of the food chain at that point, right? And so that developed into, in some ways, what we have now, where there are still people that are, wealthy Germans and Saudi Arabians and British people, Americans, Canadians who fly to Thailand or Southeast Asia or North Africa or whatever. There was a whole thing where French people go down to North Africa for like gay sex tourism. This was all throughout the 1700s. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. This shit goes back.
Even going to Jamaica, hedonism,
absolutely,
the islands and this. These sex parties are much different from having sex with poor people.
But Americans go down to South America. They go to Brazil. A lot of sex tourism in Brazil, where people go to Dominican Republic.
Oh yeah.
For like basically week-long sex tours with prostitutes.
Sex is that's the key to everything. There's so much power in it. There's power in selling it. There's power in withholding it. There's power in buying it. It's like,
I really just worry about too, like for like some of the poor nations, like I believe Haiti and Dominican, how the underage are getting wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
That's
always
gives you pause.
The fucked up aspect of it to me is the power imbalance, because you have people who, just by virtue of being born in a wealthy country, that is wealthy because of historical things that have nothing to do with them, right? Their dollar or their pound just goes so far when they go to Brazil or Thailand or wherever that they can just buy the pussy. And it's and we're talking 13-year-old girls.
You know what? We're going to counteract that because we're going to visit Brazil, and we're gonna pay for their time and their conversation.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, that's why I dig like in Japan when they go to like those kitten cafes and shit.
I'm just kidding. I could talk to somebody here. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true.
You can't save them. See, this is another thing that I think some people don't realize is not every sex worker is being trafficked. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, not at all.
True.
Like not every hoe you see with a pimp is being like, maybe at some point they were, but a lot of times they're just a con man team. They're just a team of you're a mark and they're a team, and you're feeling sorry for her is how they get your shit.
Yeah,
it's so you gonna fuck around and be like, baby, I can rescue you from this whole life, and then you wake up and your laptop gone and your cell phone gone and your wallet gone and your dog's gone. You know what I'm saying?
That's those are the Captain Save-A-Hoes.
Well, right. So it's like me. It's like I don't trust a hoe. Like the moment you meet, it's like I gotta figure out what's going on in the situation. But most of the time, it's like it's too late. You know what I'm saying? It's like they already the game has infiltrated their mind in a way that you can't. You don't have the cure. Because if you had the cure for the game, you would be a pimp. You know what I'm saying? You would be doing something rhetorical where you're not even gonna be in the situation. So it's like it's infected their mind or whatever else. It's like, but you're not rescuing a hoe. It's almost like when you meet those, like when you remember the Coney 2020 or Coney, was it Coney 2020?
Coney 2020, yeah.
Was it 2020?
I think it was
K-O-N-Y.
No, Coney was way before 2020. Maybe.
Oh, 2012. Coney 2012.
2012. Okay, yeah. So it was like, but it's like there were basically. I didn't have to bring up Cody, but there's like child soldiers.
Oh,
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the point is like once there's 10, 15 or 10, 12-year-olds running at you with AK-47s, it's like you're past the point where you can save them. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're gonna shoot you or you gotta shoot them.
You gotta shoot them, yeah.
So it's one of them things where it's like by the time you encounter a hoe that's walking a stroll, it's like you're not saving that lady. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. Because think about it, pimps get arrested all the time. And when they come back, guess who they're? They hoes.
Bailing them out.
Or whatever.
Oh,
it's
no.
like they're under the spell. Like they under the spell or they cast the spell. You know what I'm saying? It's like some of these women are hoes. In fact, and this is so crazy because this has a lot to do with misogyny or whatever, but I was reading that that like one of the saddest things is that the women involved in sex work usually are seen as victims, no matter how involved. And so what happens a lot is like when the powers that be, when they crack down on one of these places, it's like the people that are usually trafficking the underage, the younger girls, are women. These madams, and they run these brothels or whatever the fuck they are, but they don't get prosecuted to the extent of men that get caught in this trade. So they be right back at it. Like the evilest people in that whole situation is like not all the time, but I read that from somebody that used to be on, because when you join the FBI or whatever, it's like a lot of the rookies get put on the sex teams and
the vice team.
Yeah, because it washes you out. Because like most people can't handle it. It's like shit work. Like you're looking at porn, your underage porn, and you're dealing with the scum of the earth. Just the seediest scumbags, and
not white collar crime. Yeah,
and everybody has to do it. And when they first get there, and it's like a lot of that shit, your hands are tied because I think a lot of them come to the conclusion that like we're never going to stop this from happening.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah,
it's going to always happen. I don't think there's an end to it at all. Without egregiously infringing on people's freedom. Because that's the thing. It's like that's the balance, right? It's like we could stop all crime if everybody agreed to get microchipped and check-in pills and like Equilibrium, where you take a pill to suppress your emotions, and but we could do all.
This is like the third time Equilibrium has come up in conversation with me today. I don't know why.
Really?
I don't know why.
Maybe you're balanced.
That's crazy because we've never talked about it. It's one of my favorite movies.
It's a wild movie. Have you seen Equilibrium?
Nah.
Oh, it was unfairly drowned out because it came out around the same time as The Matrix.
It came out like right after The Matrix, so it looked a lot like all the other Matrix ripoffs or whatever.
Yeah,
but it's got my boy Christian Bale in it. He fucking rips in it.
It was finished before The Matrix, and actually I think it came out around with Matrix 2.
Let's see.
I could be wrong, but the point is, and it looked very Matrixy if you just looked at the art and the imagery, but it was
coloring of it, and
just the feel of like the chosen one and the badass chosen one. But
it came out between the two of them.
Okay, yeah.
So it came out in 2002, and Matrix 2 was 2003.
So it was written off as a Matrix clone, even though it was nothing like the Matrix. It was more like Fahrenheit
451.
Yeah, it was more like that. It was like basically like the premise they came to was like the world was they had World War III and destroyed most of the world, and they decided that the only way to avoid another catastrophic war, that like the source of war was human aggression and human emotion. So they came up with this drug that suppressed human emotion, and everybody had to take it. So like they lived in America's last city, and every day everybody woke up and took their pill at the same time. And it made you not feel nothing.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
And it worked. Society was organized and neat and blah, blah, blah. But so their cops, I forget what they called them, but they
the clerics of the Tetragrammaton?
Yeah, the clerics of the Tetragrammaton. You
can tell I've seen Equilibrium a few times.
Yeah, I love this movie. And it's Christian Bale, by the way. And, And
Taye Diggs.
And I'm doing a poor job at this. Hey, shout out to my homie Derek Poston with this Boy the Beans. His whole podcast is him doing this, explaining movies. So if you fuck with my shit, go fuck with his shit. He's one of my best friends. He's so funny, and his podcast is awesome. So anyway, so they take his so they have these clerics, and they can tell when you're feeling. Like their job, so not only is emotion banned, but also art is banned. Anything that elicits emotion. So they ban music, they ban books, they ban paintings, but there's people that like secretly have it. Yeah. Right. So the clerics, their job is to go find the shit and burn it, and they kill the people that had it, and their top guy. So they've developed this martial art called the gun kata. and basically
gun kata.
Yeah, gun kata, and they have two guns, and they basically master probability. So basically they know. So basically, if I was a cleric, and y'all two was in here with guns, I know that based on where y'all are standing, and if y'all shoot at me, where the bullets are likely to go. So I know exactly how to position my body so your bullets will miss me and my bullets will hit you. So wow. A cleric can run into a room, because this happened. The movie opens with a sick ass scene of him running into a room, like they knocked the lights out, and he just knows where everybody's standing. So he runs into a room, and it's like 8 people in there, all shooting at him, and it's in the dark, and he kills them all. And when the lights come on, he's just standing in the middle of the room, and everybody else is
This is Christian Bale.
Yeah, it's Christian Bale. Yeah, Taye Diggs is also in the movie. It's also
Sean Bean.
Sean Bean is in the movie, and they all do a great job. And so anyway. And
huge failure, box office failure.
Yeah, this isn't even really. So then, where shit goes already, because Christian Bale is their number one cleric. He's the master, the most masterful of the gun kata.
The top cop.
He's the top cop. And one day I guess it's debatable what caused it, because some people, it could be that he met that lady, his wife got taken. Okay. So he found out his actual wife was hiding shit, and they came and took his wife, and it threw off his whole schedule. And it just happened that the next morning he dropped his pill in the sink or something like that, right? But he didn't take it, or maybe it was that night. But when he woke up, it was like it was raining, and he never, because their windows are all fogged up, and he never
he starts experiencing
he never experiences stuff.
He sees the beauty of the sunset and shit, and it fucks him up, and he panics and goes and tries to take his pill.
It's basically they took Fahrenheit 451, 1984, Brave New World, and The Giver, and then just put them all in a blender. And
all the best parts came out.
And then all the best parts came out, and then they cast Christian Bale to basically be in the Matrix, because it looks a lot like you can tell the feel of the Matrix. Definitely,
to me, it was it was definitely a better. It was basically a lo-fi Matrix, I guess you could call it, because it wasn't all the special effects. That's why I liked Equilibrium better. It's it wasn't all the special effects. It was just they made it the world was more convincing and the story to me was more, the action was.
What I love about it is that it does a thing that this is a dumb thing that dumb movies do, but I love it when they do this, where it's there's this one part where they find people who have a cache of hidden pieces of art that are not allowed, because art's not allowed, because emotion's not allowed, so there's no art. And so of course they have in this random place where this is all the art that they've squirreled away. They have the Mona Lisa and a record of Beethoven's Fifth. Right. And you know what I mean? It's just name a painting, Mona Lisa. Okay, they got that. Name a book, Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn. Okay, they got that. But
it was amazing. It was good. It was, to me, it was just more. It was more beautiful violence. Whereas where I felt like a lot of the cool shit that happened in the Matrix, it was almost like they were let's make an excuse to do this cool thing. Whereas in this story, it was more the cool thing was necessary.
The flow of the story essentially catered to
right.
Some of the action scenes, some of the violence.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, look, we could. That's a whole different.
Yeah, I don't know if we have enough time to have the argument about whether Matrix or Equilibrium.
Yeah, but that's a good place to wrap. Guys, don't forget we don't have time for the thing, right? But don't forget to check out my link tree. Check out my BrianSimpsonComedy.com for tickets, or you can go to my link tree at any of my social medias. BS Comedian, social media you want to
plug? Dame Grant, follow me at Dame_Grant_ IG. That's all I got.
Thanks.
Time to be doing that bullshit.